Well, folks, a massive welcome. Today, we're very, very fortunate that we've got Mike Cole joining us from Annapolis in North America. Mike is one of the world's best bass and tenor drummers, in my very humble opinion. I've seen him in action. I've been very fortunate to actually receive help from Mike directly in lots of different ways, through education, through helping a band that I was a part of back in the late 2008, 2009 era with SFU. So today, we get a chance to ask Mike about where he came from, how he started, and get to look a little bit inside his business as well, which is an incredible business that creates some fine products for bass and tenor players. So Mike, a massive welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely brilliant to see you. So tell me, how did you get started?
Well, I started out just drumming when I was about 13 years old. And well, to give it away, close to 60 years ago.
That's amazing.
And I started playing the drum set and played drums in high school, played a little bit when I was in the Army. Then I went on to play professionally for a number of years, went on the road. And then I decided that, I'd get a real job and quit doing that. But I've just been drumming for most of my life, on and off, some, professionally, and then just as a hobby and so forth. Pipe band wise, I began pipe bands in 1987. I happened upon a band that was playing in my church on St. Patrick's Day. And I made the mistake of asking, what does it take to become a drummer in a pipe band? And I think they threw a sack over my head. And the next thing I woke up, I was in a pipe band. So, but it was a local grade 3 band in Chicago, the Inverness Gaelic Society. And it just so happened that year in 1987, my first year in a pipe band, we went to the World Pipe Band Championships. And boy, talk about just a way to jump in with both feet. And we were probably no more than about 100 feet away from the 78th Frasers when they won. And I just remembered, the explosion and how they all reacted and winning. And I was hooked from that point on. It was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I said in my spare time, well, it's become a lot more than spare time since that point. But over the years, I've played in a number of different bands, and I've been very, very fortunate to have I'd say, be in the right place at the right time. And have probably, I know that my wife and I have more friends in the pipe band community than we do anywhere else. It's amazing how many great people you meet over the years, and how much you learn, and how these relationships just tend to blossom, and you just meet more and more people. So I've been hooked ever since. As I say, I played in a number of different bands. I started out as a side drummer, and from that point, I played tenor with the 78th Frasers, and then I made the transition. I was with a band called Midlothian Scottish, outside of Chicago, or in the Chicago area, and Jim Sim was my leading drummer, and the pipe major Ian Swinton. What a great band that was. Well, I started playing side drum with them, ended up getting pneumonia the first year, knocked out, made a return on the last contest of the year, and their bass drummer didn't show up, and he couldn't make it, and they asked me if I'd played bass. I never looked back.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the bass drummer, it turns out at the end of the season, he had work commitments and he couldn't continue. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So from that point on, it was, I absorbed everything that I possibly could. I watched all the people who I considered were really great players at the time. The late Ronnie Brown, who played with the city of Detroit. Luke Allen, to talk about legends. Then Rick Calhoun, Big Jimmy Stewart, Ian McLean. I just started watching all these fellows, and this was before the internet. So when I made my first trip to the Worlds, every time we'd go over after that, I would just start watching and taping, and just absorbing anything I possibly could. And that's where I got my start. And it's been quite a ride, and I've had some incredible experiences. But as I say, I've been fortunate just to have been in the right place at the right time and have played with some amazing bands. And here in North America, a lot of folks are kind of victims of geography. They're in areas where they really can't go beyond maybe their choices are very limited in terms of where they can play, what bands they can play with, and so forth. So as well, just for one example, this the contest that you and Yuri Chisholm put on, this international contest, it's a perfect opportunity for folks to get out and expose themselves and get out and get opinions from judges from all over the world. So the geography thing is, we've kind of made the world a smaller place in many respects. And I suppose one good thing out of this whole coronavirus thing is realizing that we do have all these resources available to us, and that good instruction and good resources are no more than a couple of keystrokes away. So
absolutely, and that's changed so vastly. You talk about no YouTube or internet back when you began, and I was the same. It was cassette tapes, and then eventually CDs came in, and I was collecting all these little things I could. But nowadays, right, it's one click away, and it's been amazing to watch people react to the online platform, particularly with the online World Piping and Drumming Championships, and see how much interaction and engagement there actually is. It's really impressive.
Oh, I know. And when you have folks like Drone Chorus, and I've yet to meet the gentleman, but I think he should never, ever have to buy a beer in a beer tent for the rest of his life.
I agree. And for those who haven't seen Drone Chorus, guys, I'll put a link down below this in the description to the Drone Chorus YouTube channel. He simply has the best quality recordings of all of the top bands. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an incredible resource for pipers, drummers, you name it. I mean, it's an open book, and I think he started maybe in about 2009, but they're all really good quality recordings, all high definition. So you can spend hours and hours watching. And now that we have some time on our hands, it's probably not a bad idea to go back and revisit some of those clips.
100% agree with you. No, it's an amazing quality resource for everybody to head to. And I think back actually, so 2008 seems like a long time ago, but I remember spending a lot of quality time with you when I was part of the SFU band. And that year is a hard year to forget, because it was the year that we won the Worlds, both as a band and as a drum corps. And I think a big part of what helped us there was the quality of the sound that we had in all areas of the band. But I, in the background, watched what you were doing with the midsection, and you had quite I would say, a magic touch, and you're very innovative, and you know how to create a sound and how to manipulate a sound to get what you want. So for those who are watching here currently, what do you do to set your drum up, or even more importantly, what products do you use, and why do you use them?
Well, most importantly, I rely on my ears, but there are a lot of tools available. If you're in a closed situation like my little studio here, I can take a drum and I can really fine tune it. But when you get into a pipe band situation and you're rehearsing or you're getting ready to go out, you need to have the right tools to help you get the job done and get it done quickly. So a lot of it comes from making sure that the drums are set up before you even get out in the field. You don't start doing all the major setup when you're out on the field or when you're getting ready to perform. So you do that work prior to getting out there. So all the heads need to be evened out. I use a drum dial. I use a tuner. I will use mallets, a soft mallet and a hard mallet to tap around the edges to make sure that everything is balanced. And it's getting things set, as I say, once again, getting them in the general vicinity or where you want them to go before you get out there. For bass and tenor sections, I kind of look at tenor drums as mini bass drums for the most part. You want the heads evenly tensioned on both sides, and maybe a little bit differently when you get to the higher pitches, but normally you want those heads evenly tensioned. Same sound both sides, all the rims balanced, evenly tensioned. And then you get them tuned in with the pipes. You wait until the pipes get settled in. You go to the pipe major, because everybody's setting up off the pipe major, and you get the note off of the drone. What's the pitch? Is it 480? Is it 484? Is it whatever the case may be? And then you start getting things set up. And from there on, it's kind of it's a ballet. If the sun comes out, well, the pipe pitch goes up and the drum pitch goes down. So you have to keep messing around with it. In Scotland, the sun will come out for 15 minutes and then it'll go away, or it'll come, it gets warm, cold, the temperature can shift 10, 15 degrees in a matter of minutes. So that's where you have to kind of start toying around with things. But it's just a matter of practice, James, where you start understanding how a drum works. It's not rocket science, but you start understanding the mechanics of the drum and what will make a drum sound the best. Obviously, having a good drum, having good heads and all that good stuff makes a big difference. But just making sure that you understand the instrument. And every drummer needs to know his or her instrument. Mm-hmm. You can't rely on somebody else to do it. You have to have the basic fundamental knowledge of how the drum is supposed to be set up.
Absolutely. What tuner do you use, if you don't mind me asking? Do you have a specific tuner you like to use?
I have a Saul tuner that Scott Curry gave me for my birthday. Gosh, I forget how many years ago, and I still have it and I treasure it.
It's a great device.
It's fantastic. I mean, you don't have to do any conversions. It's all set to the pipe band channers. The other one that I use that's great, it's about 10 or 15 bucks, little Korg.
Yeah.
You can set these things up. You can calibrate it to A is equal to 480, and you'll be able to work off of that.
Brilliant.
But I use that. I have a couple of tension watches that I use. In the studio, I have what's called a tune bot, which is great. It's a little electronic device you clamp onto the hoop, and it will measure every single pitch around each lug in terms of hertz, and you can set them up, and you can set your drum on the floor and it'll measure every single pitch, flip it over. So it's great for a drum set, because I tend to tune my bottom heads up a little tighter than I do my top head, so I don't get so I get a little bit of a pitch bend.
That's amazing. And these little tune bots, where can people get those? Are this the different music shops, or?
Yeah, you can check them out on Amazon. They're
okay.
About $100, something like that. But yeah, you can either have them set to a particular pitch, or it'll tell you exactly what the note is. You know?
Yeah.
So it's a great device. Really
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I would say, in my opinion, you're somewhat of a tuning wizard. I've seen you with SFU supporting them back when I was in the band. I've seen you doing things with Inverarity. I've seen a lot of bands come to you and ask for help. And I think that says a lot. So I want to say thanks for sharing what you've just shared. It'll help a lot of people. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, because I know that you're an incredible teacher, you've got a very special skill in the way that you can impart your knowledge. So if I was a bass or tenor drummer starting out, or say I'm a teacher trying to help someone start out, would you say there's any key fundamentals that I should be focusing on as a bass or tenor player?
Certainly. Key fundamentals: understand what the pipers are doing. Really get into the structure of a 4/4 march. Understand the structure of a 6/8. Listen to what's being played. Listen to where the beat emphasis is. And it goes for every other type of tune, be it a march, a stress bay, a reel, a jig, a rounded reel, hornpipe. listen to what the pipers are doing. Listen to a really good gold medalist. I mean, you know, listen to a Willie McCallum or a Stuart Little or Jack Lee or just, you know, or Yori. Listen to really good pipers playing and what they're trying to express, because we're working as an ensemble. Okay, we're not, you know, obviously we have our objectives as a drum corps, what we're supposed to be doing, but the main thing is we're working in coordination with the pipers. So we need to understand the music. So that's the first thing. The other thing is that I'll borrow from what Buddy Rich used to say, you know, don't just be a jazz drummer, don't be a rock drummer, don't be a country drummer, be a drummer. And don't limit yourself to just playing the big fuzzy sticks. Pick up a couple of these once in a while and learn some of the basic rudiments. Learn some of the techniques. For example, the Moeller technique. Learn how to use the rebound of the stick to your advantage instead of playing stiff-wristed. It's about music and flow and being relaxed. So some of the basics, there's so many resources. Again, we go back to the internet. I mentioned, like, for example, the Moeller technique that people say, well, gee, that's just related to, you know, kit drumming. If you really want to limit it to that, sure it is, but it's not really. It's something that you can adapt and use to your playing. So it's all about the comfort level and being able to play without making it a physical challenge. People say, well, geez, you got that big bass drum, it's got to be so challenging to play. Well, it isn't if you approach it in a certain way. But Moeller technique, basic rudiments. Now we're not doing paradiddles on a bass drum, but or we're not doing ratomacues, that sort of thing. But we need to be comfortable playing comfortably off of either hand, being able to accent off of either hand, or playing at different dynamic levels off of either hand. And same with tenor drummers. So basic fundamentals. I refer people to another website. It's called drummerworld.com. My email keeps dinging here. So, I should just squash it. Drummerworld.com.
Yeah.
It's you can get lost in there, but they have different sections that are specific to just hands, you know, hand exercises. And number one, you see some amazing drumming there, but also some techniques that you can take away and use to your advantage. And you know, it's all about playing relaxed and enjoying the music. So immerse yourself in the idiom, and don't just be a tenor drummer, a bass drummer, be a drummer.
That's the best advice, honestly, and I want to say thank you for that. And it rings true with, you know, some of the greatest bass and tenor players that I've sat with, like Tyler Fry, Michael O'Neill, yourself, Blake Schmidt. All these guys, you throw a pair of snare sticks in their hand, and they can play. They can play some good snare. And so I think when you have a good percussion bass, and you can actually play a percussive instrument, it should be across all forms. So it says a lot that you've got a set of snare sticks sitting right there.
Snare sticks and a pad.
I love it. So good.
Got to keep the hands going.
You got a good pad there. It's funny, you're sitting in Annapolis and I'm sitting in Christchurch, New Zealand, and we've got the same setup by the looks of it, the Jim Kilpatrick pad.
Yes, sir.
So good. Good. A bit of PR there for Jim. Brilliant. Hey, so I wanted to ask you about your company. So could you please tell us about your company and what you do and why you started it?
Sure. Well, as a drummer, can never have too many sticks or too many drums. When I started playing the bass drum, I just grabbed the pair of mallets that happened to be with the drum at the time and, you know, started playing them. And they didn't feel quite right. I felt, man, I could do something else. So I started buying more and more, you know, different types of mallets. Some felt okay, some this, that, or the other. And I just decided to try to make my own. I've always kind of done handyman stuff around the house, and I've got my own little tool shop. I've got a lathe. So I decided that I would try to make my own sticks. So I'm trying to remember, I can't remember exactly when I started, James, probably about 1994, I started trying to make my own drumsticks. And I came across a design, and it was just based on the idea of, well, the thickness of a regular drumstick. Because I thought about the fulcrum on the drumstick, and I thought, well, most of the bass drumsticks that I played, had a rather massive shaft, and just didn't quite feel right. So I started thinking about, well, I don't want to play a real skinny stick. I need a little bit more meat. So I finally ended up coming up with a design that had like a place where I could grab onto about like so, but a little meat in the middle, and then somewhere I could put my pinky.
That's brilliant.
And I turned those things down, and then I started using different types of foam and different types of materials, and finally came up with one that was molded. I had to mix the foam, 2 parts foam, put it in an aluminum mold, close the mold, let it sit for 15 minutes, then take it out, and then clean it off. That worked pretty well, and I started, Craig Cahoon started playing them. He was the first one that started playing them, and then I started, giving them away, and then John McFetridge from Field Marshal picked them up, and he fell in love with them. And I thought, maybe I've got something going here. So I started making them and selling them, but the production was just, it was mind-boggling. It was a mess. I only could make three pairs of sticks at a time, and it would take me close to 2 hours to do. And I was like, this is not, this isn't very profitable in terms of time. But at any rate, I did streamline the design over the years, and I came up with the design that I have now. And it's working rather well. I'm quite pleased with them. The other thing that I do is I give Skype lessons. That's part of my business, so to speak, and do workshops.
Brilliant.
So it's, I'm at a point now where I'm starting to get paid back for, not that I was ever looking for a monetary return in doing this, but it is starting to pay me back a little bit. So that's kind of a good thing.
As it should. You've given so much. And I think when you give so much for so many years, that does come back. And I want people who are watching this to be able to connect with you. So where's the best place that they can connect, buy your products, or want maybe engage in lessons? How can they do that?
Well, I have a website. It's twistedthistle.com.
Brilliant.
And that's has a list of the people who carry my products, and also a link to Skype lessons.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure for those of you who are watching that I'll pop that link down below. And also, guys, while you're at it, hit the subscribe button so you can keep up with other interviews. I've been really fortunate over the last few months to connect with some of the world's greatest. And Mike, you're without a doubt one of the world's greatest players. So it's amazing to connect with you. And hopefully we get a chance to share a beverage again in the near future as COVID moves on and competitions move back.
Absolutely. It's been great talking with you. It's been too damn long since we've had a chance to catch up, but eventually.
Absolutely. Well, you take care, Mike, and we'll connect again soon.
All the best. Thanks again.